So people often ask me, why food forests? Why am I obsessed with food forests? And I might have my eyes closed for this because we're in the sun. Pollinator gardens, native plant gardens. Why? So basically the context for this, I would just say, starts with industrial agriculture. Now, food forests are nothing new under the sun. We have been doing food forestry in different forms, planting native plants, because that's all we really had access to for as long as industrial agriculture, or no, not industrial, but like modern agriculture started 12,000 years ago. And even before then, there is evidence of food forests, very clear evidence in the Amazon rainforest. All around the world, people would have fruit trees in their yard. It just made sense. So this is not some new, innovative, special, fancy practice. But the reason I'm so obsessed with it is because look at the current state of industrial agriculture. Basically, massive swaths of land, a whole majority of the native ecology of the ecosystems have been wiped out and replaced by dead monocultural fields of corn, soybeans. In the United States, the corn isn't even needed. It's just used to feed factory farmed animals. It's subsidized so heavily that we're trying to turn it into fuel. All this nonsense just to wipe out massive swaths of the native ecology. So when I think about food forests, a huge part of what I care about is just restoring those native ecosystems. That's a huge part of it for me. I just want to see the whole of the United States, the whole of the world have more restored native ecosystems, more live ecology. And when you go and just wipe out a majority of these ecosystems, replace them with cornfields, these whole giant systems are very fragile. Then you're threatening the bees. Hundreds of species are dying every single day and going extinct. We're just wiping out these systems, and these little isolated islands of natural ecology are completely fragmented, disintegrated from our agricultural systems. So when I think about food forestry, I'm thinking about more efficient agriculture that doesn't take up as much space. I'm thinking about an agricultural system that is integrated with these natural ecosystems, so you don't just have some wild forest and then the second the deer step off of that, it's this poisonous wasteland. I'm thinking about systems where all of the animals and wildlife are integrated within these agricultural systems. There almost isn't a boundary between this wild land. The animals are doing just as good. All the native species, all the habitat, all the ecosystems are thriving from these conservation areas into the agricultural system. And then it just happens to produce massive amounts of food. It's far more efficient than growing corn. On 100 acres of food forest, the amount of food you can grow in a rich ecosystem because of the output is massive compared to 100 acres of corn. So the reason I'm so obsessed with food forests primarily is really, it's actually a couple other things too. It's to protect native ecosystems, to restore the ecology of the world's ecological systems. It's also animal welfare. When you look at these factory farms, the corn is all fucked up. There's 100 acres of corn. It's dead. It's a laboratory type setting. It makes no sense to grow corn that way. Why are we growing the corn? To harvest? All these stages, from planting, harvesting, shipping to some concentrated feedlot operation. We have all these cows living inside. All the outputs are completely fragmented, disintegrated. So you take this corn, you ship it somewhere, all this cost, all this effort to feed a shit ton of cows. The cows poop. You have these massive piles of cow poop that are just giving off methane because they're not being returned to the soil, where there's natural bacteria that fix methane into the soil. I think it's methanotrophic bacteria. You're not having that cow poop start to immediately get integrated back into the ecosystem with carbonaceous material by being put in a prairie. All the nutrients, instead of being a benefit to the ecosystem, are causing massive problems because they're just breaking down. And then eventually they might get scooped onto some farmer's land, but it's not in the proper way. It's not in the ecological proper way. It's taking time, and that time, the cow poop isn't doing what it should be doing. So animal welfare, you have these cornfields, these cows. Every single day of these cows' lives is complete hell, complete suffering. Chickens, pigs as well, completely just hellish conditions. They're just an absolute hell. They're inside, they're extremely sick, they're not moving, they're being fed terrible food, they're literally constantly sick. 10% of milk that you get in the store from factory farms is pus and blood because the cows constantly have mastitis. The animals are pecking at each other. They're biting off each other's tails. They're absolutely miserable. But if you could have a 100-acre food forest, you could have pigs, you could have chickens, you could have cows. Cows would be more of a prairie type system. Pigs do well in like a silviculture, like forest-ish, prairie-ish. I mean, obviously it's not just forests. You can have these natural, beautiful, wild, lush prairies with wildflowers. And then the cows graze every single day of their life. They're extremely happy. They're completely free. They're completely at ease within their environment. And they're benefiting the system. Prairies are evolved to be grazed by ruminant animals. So I imagine massive swaths of prairie, native wildflowers, super rich, just like completely full of bugs, birds, teeming with life, extremely healthy soil. Every time the cows graze, it disturbs the land and it comes back stronger because that's what the prairies are evolved to deal with. And then we go and we mimic this in our systems, like by mowing things down and then fertilizing. Really, we just need cows to go mow it down and dump a bunch of poop and then to give it at least 30 days before they graze again. Rotational grazing is key. So you can have all these animals living every single day of their life happily, and then they just have one bad day. Ideally, we don't send them to a factory to kill them on their last day. We would just take them over here and then slit their throat. They have a couple bad seconds, but every single day of their life, they're extremely happy. And then you're not eating this like terrible, terrible food that was grown in this terrible soil as far as plants. But man, the factory farm meat, that is just some disgusting shit. If you really do your research into just how fucked up and demented the factory farms are, you would never want to put that stuff in your mouth again. It blows my mind that the information can be out there for how terrible factory farmed meat is as far as like the actual just constituent components that go into this as far as sickness, disease, what they're being fed is absolutely disgusting. Even if you didn't care about animal welfare, the fact that people would want to eat that stuff blows my mind. But now you can have the complete opposite where this meat is extremely healthy. They've been eating all this wild food, a diversity of hundreds of different types of plants growing in rich soil, super, super healthy, super amazing. The animals are healthy. Even just the fact that they're happy actually makes the meat healthier. It's not just full of cortisol and sickness. Like literally people eat cancerous chicken. There are cancer cells, cancer masses growing in the factory farm chicken, and we just don't care. It's like completely fucked up. These animals are completely sick. And the alternative is just so much better. So like, as far as food forests, why am I obsessed with planting like little cool ecosystems in people's yard? Protecting the native ecosystems, restoring the ecology, animal welfare. I mean, number one, that's where my heart is the animal welfare above the health. But I mean, I don't know, maybe we don't need to rate these things, but also just the health of the food that we're eating. So protect the ecosystems, animal welfare, healthy food, and what else? Just beauty, just beautiful natural spaces. You go out, I'm in Minneapolis right now, you go out into the countryside, it's just these dead cornfields, it's disgusting. If everywhere throughout the city, integrated in layers, throughout the entire countryside was rich ecology, our whole country, our whole entire earth, you wouldn't have to go to these isolated little conservation areas for some beautiful nature. Just everywhere would be beautiful nature. So why am I so obsessed with food forests? All these reasons, like if it was just one of these reasons, that would be like 10 out of 10 motivation for food forests to be awesome. But when you look at all these things together, and I mean, we're not going to address the question of is it practical. I have other videos about that. Short answer, yes, it is. Go watch those videos. It's a very complex problem, but it's actually like far more efficient, far more practical than industrial agriculture because you have to take a systemic approach to understanding it. So why food forests? Why am I obsessed with food forests? That's the answer. All these things come together. Super important. I haven't even looked at the video because it's just so bright. I can't even see my screen. Let's see. Are we recording? Yeah, we are. All right. If you want me to build you a food forest, you in your yard, an organization, a school, a church, if you know anyone who wants a food forest, I offer commission to anyone who can find me a deal to build that food forest, which can be quite a bit, especially if it's a larger project. But it might not be. You can also just take that commission and give it to your friend as a discount. And email me at eternalharvestgardens@gmail.com if you're interested in that. Peace.